All right, welcome to this week's office hours for Cohort 27. I'm Amanda Rylant, the state coordinator for 21st Century. We also have Melissa and Carla in here, who are two of our specialists. Kelly is out of the office this week. I don't have a whole lot of new information to share with you guys. We are still waiting on the RFA to be finalized and approved. It's sitting, I believe, on the second to last person's desk. But she was out of town all week last week, and I think that's why, I think I said that in the last meeting, so I think that's why it's still sitting there. But I know it's being looked at, and hopefully we'll be releasing it any day now. As soon as we get the notice that it has been approved by Dr. Mackey or been signed by Dr. Mackey, we will be sure to send that out to the Cohort 27 RFA listserv, and then we'll get it uploaded to our website. And then, of course, once he approves it to be sent out, it already has like a memo attached to it, and it'll go out to all of the LEA superintendents, and it goes out in our through our communications department. So, if you haven't been to one of these before, these are just casual meetings where you can ask questions that may have come up that you may have thought of about the RFA. I did send out an email about 30 minutes ago. I'm sorry it was so late. I've been in meetings all day long and all week long, actually. And I just thought to myself, I never did upload the Q&A document, or never had Kelly upload it into our website last week. So I wanted to get that out to you guys. So I did send it out via email about 30 minutes ago, along with a reminder about today's meeting. So there's no additional questions on it than what we went over in the last meeting, but you may have thought of a question that you would like to ask since that time. So I'm going to open up the floor. And if anyone has any questions, you're welcome to either unmute yourself and ask, or you can put it in the chat, whichever one you feel more comfortable with, and we are happy to address your questions. So I'm not seeing anything pop up yet. I will let you know the intent to apply document was due on the 30th. I believe that was last Friday. We've had a few people ask if they could submit it since, and yes, you can. It is still open. We just had that deadline so that we could go ahead and start reaching out to peer reviewers and getting those hired. But if you're just now coming into the program and you still want to let us know that you do plan to apply, you're welcome to still go in and fill that document out. It may be too late as far as us using that information to hire peer reviewers, but we still appreciate the information. I don't plan on shutting it down. Really, it's an optional thing. You don't have to do it, but we do appreciate you doing it, because we don't want to get into the situation where we don't have enough reviewers to review all the applications, and then that would delay the process even further than we've already had to delay it. So if you will let us know, if you will fill that document out and let us know that you intend to apply, if you haven't done so already, we would appreciate that, even though it's past the due date. All right, I'm going to shut up for a minute and see if anyone has any questions.
Amanda, this is Jennifer Baker.
Hey.
I'm listening in on my phone, but I just had a question about the forms. Like, going on the website, they're showing that they're like a Google Doc, but it's not formatted to allow me to open them and use them as a fillable document. And I was just wondering if I'm doing something incorrectly to try to access those.
Kelly is kind of our webmaster. I'm wondering, do you have a Google account?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, our district is a Google district, so it's I've not had it do that, with other things. So
I don't know. I
It's
know
not a
one time
Google
I went
form.
in to check them and it wouldn't let me, and then when I went in again, I think I had to sign into something, and when I went in again, it allowed me to see them. So I'm wondering if it has something to do with some sort of login. Melissa, were you gonna say something?
Yeah, it's not a fillable document anymore. It's just the Google form. It's nothing to download anymore. Like like previously, it's
I
been
think
a
she's
form you can download.
Jennifer, are you talking about the forms that are for the RFA that have been uploaded
Yeah,
to the
the
website?
cohort,
Yeah,
and they
those
show to
should be
be
downloaded.
like in a Google, and it says fillable, like on Form
Mm-hmm.
2,
Right.
and but
Form
when I
two. Let
pull
me
it
go look.
up, and I've tried it on like my school desktop, my home, and now I'm at the board on a different computer, and
Okay.
it's not giving me the option. It's showing it's a fillable PDF, but it's not allowing me to even open it with Google. You know,
Huh.
like usually at the top it'll say open with.
Okay. So the only thing I can think of to fix that right now until Kelly's back, and maybe there's a way that she can fix it, but I can try to email them out to the listserv. Um, the fillable documents. Is that the only one that you're having an issue obtaining? Is just the ones that say they're fillable?
They are all PDFs, and so they have to be downloaded and probably open up in Adobe.
I see. Okay. All right. That will fix it then. So
Okay.
they're not going to be technically a Google Doc, so they're all
No.
PDFs.
Yeah, right.
No, they're
They're all in the
PDF.
drive. You're right there in the Google Drive, and then they're listed as a PDF. If you have Adobe, you could download it and then fill it in through Adobe. But if not, you would have to
It's old fashioned way.
go through the. You're right.
Okay. And these have been updated from back in on the 9th when you guys said that
Yes.
there had been some adjustments.
Yes, they have.
Okay. All right. Good deal. Well, thank you. That's very
Thank
helpful.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Okay. Great question. All right. So we have a question in the chat that says on Form 1, how is this 21st century program will expand services 5 points? Sorry, it's like so small, so short. But let me explain that particular, because this has been a common question that's come up about that particular priority. So when you get the RFA, of course, it'll give more details, and there's more details about it in the informational meeting from November 21st, if you want to watch that. But what it means by expanding programs, I'm trying to find it in the actual RFA. Give me a second. Let's see. Let's see.
Videos. We have one that's
Okay, so yes, this is priority 4. So what it says in the RFA is that 5 bonus points will be awarded to applicants that demonstrate that the proposed activities are not accessible to students who would be served and or would expand accessibility to high quality services that may be available in the community as evidenced by community needs assessment results, or gap analysis documentation, resource mapping, and or data showing that the proposed program will add services that are not currently offered by any local organization. So what this means is if you are going to provide something for your students to do, an activity for your students to do as part of your 21st century program that either is not available in the community or is only available to certain people in the community, if you plan to add that as one of your activities, you would qualify for these priority points. So one example I've given in the past on this is, let's say that your community has a golf course somewhere in the community, but it is a private golf course. It is only available to members of a club that is very expensive to get into, and they offer golf lessons, but they're very cost prohibitive, and most students would not be able to afford to have those golf lessons. So let's say you plan to make golf lessons one of the activities that you provide as an option to your students, and you plan to pay for a golf pro to come in and teach students the basics and the golf skills. then that would be you providing something that is not accessible to most children in your community. Let's think of another example. Always sports and dancing is what pops into my head, but we'll say dancing. So let's say that your community is super small and there is no dance studio in the community, but you want to offer ballet or another form of dance to the students that participate as part of one of your activities in your 21st century program, then you could hire a professional dancer, someone who has experience in teaching dance, to come in and provide dance lessons to the students. A question just popped up that says, what about swimming lessons? Yes, you could do that as well. So let's say there's a community pool, but again, it's only offered to certain students. It is cost prohibitive, and you want to take the 21st century students to go and have swimming lessons during the summer, then yes, you would qualify for those priority points. What I highly recommend though is you make sure that when you're putting this into your application that you say, we qualify for priority number 2 because we are going to offer this. You know what I mean? Like, be specific in your application, in your narrative as to what your evidence is that you qualify for these priority points. Don't just assume that the grant readers will pick up on it and know. I would definitely, or at the very least, put in put your description of what you're going to provide, and in parentheses, put priority 2 or priority 3, whatever it applies to, but make sure that what I've noticed is that the applications that are well organized and easy for those grant readers to read are the ones who get the higher scores, because they understand what you're planning to do with your kids better. So the ones that, there may have been some in this last cohort that had great ideas and great plans, but they do like me and rambled, or they didn't have their information well organized, or they were just kind of all over the place in their plans, and it didn't seem like a solid plan. Those are the ones who didn't score well. So always it's better to be more intentional in your descriptions and make sure that you point out whenever it is that you are providing information that shows that you qualify for one of the priority points. Did that answer everybody's question? Does anybody else have any questions about that? So just keep in mind that most of the people that are serving as grant reviewers are not from the state of Alabama. They may be from other states, and so they're not going to understand what is and is not offered in your community. So you need to make sure that you point it out. If you're going to offer something that these kids don't have any other access to, that's a great thing, and you need to make sure you point it out and that it applies to that priority number 4 of expanding services. I'm going to use my wait time to see if there's any other questions. Okay. There is a stated number of hours that a program director can work, same for site coordinator. If we stay within our indirect admin budget, is there a certain number of hours a CSFO or data entry coordinator can work within each grant? Okay, so we did not specify the number of hours, but they would not be more than a program director, definitely, and probably not more than a site coordinator for sure. We did not really put best practices for that one because we've never really had that come up as being a problem in the past. Typically, the CSFO or financial person who works with the organization works a good bit less than other employees because there's not a really reason for them to be there every day. So they may, I've seen it where they work 8 hours in a month or 10 hours in a month. Sometimes it's like a couple hours a week or, something to that effect, especially CSFO, because really they're keeping up with the budget and keeping up maybe with the PARs and things like that. But it's not something that really should require their everyday work, or them working on it every day. Now, the data entry coordinator, it depends on what all that data entry coordinator is going to be doing. We've seen it where some people, the data entry coordinator is the person who's taking attendance each day at the site and they're inputting it into easy reports. And if that's part of their job, then yeah, they might need to work every day. But if not, if really their job description is more of when the time comes around that we're going to be doing evaluations or collecting data for the GEPRA measures, like for 21 APR, that's really going to be more of their job, then they probably don't need to work that frequently throughout the year, each month throughout the year. So really it just depends on what their job description is and how often they are going to, they're going to be helping out with the program and how much is needed. So just keep in mind that that administrative cap is a cap. It is not intended to be the goal of what you spend for admin and indirect cost. Is just the most that can be spent for admin and indirect costs. And the reason why we had to put these best practices and these number of hours in place is because we did have some sites that kind of, I'm very blunt. It just seemed like they were taking kind of advantage of that cap and basically paying their administrators whatever it took to get that cap to be maxed out to the penny when it wasn't necessary. So we had some sites that are running, like we have some program directors that run 8 to 12 programs and only 40% of their salary comes out of 21st century, and they run their programs extremely well, when we had other programs who were trying to pay their program director a full-time salary and they only run one site and they don't even have to be on site each day. You know, it doesn't really make sense to pay a person 40 hours a week to run a program that they don't have to be at, that they're just an administrator over, and that program only runs 2 hours a day. So we tried to be fair in coming up with these best practice hours, but that's kind of where we came up with those hours for, or the reason why we came up with those hours. Okay, so the next question, could that be included in program director jobs description to add that responsibility? Absolutely. I'm assuming you mean federal program director. It maybe not. That's the first thing that pops into my head. We do have a lot of our LEAs. The federal program director is the program director for, oh wait, hold on. Maybe I'm reading that differently. Deanne, you want to unmute yourself and clarify what you mean by that? I don't want to answer the wrong question. You're muted.
Now can you hear me? I'm sorry.
Hey.
Hey, I was wondering, the program director, if you could add the data entry, could they be responsible for the data entry?
They could, and of course that would definitely make a difference, but I think of the best way to put this. Yes, that could be part of their responsibilities, which would probably justify allowing them to work a little bit over what we say is best practices. We would prefer it. If that's the case, though, they're going to need to be at that program every day working those hours. That's why we didn't make that best practice like a hard and fast, absolute, this is the only time you can work. But also keep in mind, typically the program director gets paid more hourly than other staff. And so if they're taking on a job that would be typically paid for at a lower level, then that might also need to be considered as well. You know what I'm saying? So we wouldn't want to pay, like, if I'm just throwing this number out there, let's say that your program director is making $55 an hour. We wouldn't want them to be there doing their job and several other jobs at $55 an hour, really, that, you know what I mean? So I'm saying,
Yes.
so we would just probably have to kind of work that out. And it may be that if they're kind of serving in the capacity of 2 positions, then they get paid a certain amount at, for their program director work, and then a certain amount for like a position that would typically make less than a program
Okay.
director. Yeah.
Okay.
We
Thank
would
you.
figure that out if that happens. Yeah.
Okay.
No problem.
Thank you.
So, in past RFAs or past cohorts, we had an issue where program directors were they were taking part of their salary. They were saying that they were also teaching as part of their job. And so they were taking part of their salary out of administrative costs and then part of their salary out of the teacher expenses. And we had to put a stop to that as well, because really that was just a way for them to cheat the admin cap. And so we had to kind of nip that one in the bud as well. So we no longer allow that sort of thing. Really just keep in mind, program director is really supposed to be an administrative position, not necessarily on site every day. We do want them to visit the sites, preferably once a week. But it's not really intended to be like a full-time on its own position unless that program director is over 5 or more sites for that organization. So just kind of keep that in mind.
How many hours is recommended for a program director
So what we've
and a
said,
site?
yeah. So what we've said best practice would be is basically 8 hours per site that they are over per week. So if you only overseeing one site, then we're saying best practice would probably be to work about 8 hours a week as a program director. 2 sites would be 16 hours, 3 sites, you can do the math, up until 5 sites would be a full-time position, 40 hours a week. Now, once you get past 5, you can either just continue to have that one person in place as a program director, or we've said now that you can hire an assistant program director to either take on the additional sites that you may have or to kind of split the duties. But there does need to be like one person that's in charge. There needs to be the one program director that is the final decision maker in all things. That's the person who communicates with the AL, who's responsible for communicating with the ALSDE. It's the person that we're going to go to if we see there's a problem.
Right.
But you can kind of split we have said you can split the duties after you get past 5 sites, and you can do that how you want to. You could do, if you had 6 sites, you could have the program director that works full time, 40 hours a week, and then you have an additional assistant director who works 8 hours a week in the assistant capacity, or you could just split the sites 3 apiece, and split it. I would say that the actual program director should make a little bit more than the assistant program director, because they do have that built-in additional responsibility of kind of being the person who is officially in charge. But you can divide that however you see fit for your personal needs. So
site director is every day, right?
Site directors should be there every day during the whole program and can work up to an hour past the program. So they can work like 30 minutes to an hour before the program starts, 30 minutes to an hour after, just depending on the needs. But yes, so typically if your organization only has 1 or 2 sites, or only has 1 site, really the site coordinator may actually make more than the program director, because they may work more hours.
Right.
But they probably should be being paid at a lower hourly
And the
rate as well.
program director and site director can't share responsibilities like.
Only if there's only 1 site. And that was just per request of some districts. If we have, the question was, if we only run 1 site, do we have to have both a site coordinator and a program director? And the answer is no. You can just have one that does both if you would like to. But that's only if your organization has just 1 site that they're over.
So the program director and site director could be the same if you have 1 site.
If you have 1 site. And just
Okay.
for clarification, try to call it program director and site coordinator so that it's not a confusion there. No, it
Okay.
gets confusing.
Okay.
Yeah. Because sometimes when we read the applications, we're like, okay, which person is this? is this the person who's over everybody, or is this the person that's just over that site? So we try to kind of keep those titles consistent.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, good afternoon.
Hey.
Hey, I just wanted to make sure I got it. I just need a little clarification. So for the program director, you said 8 hours a week in the first site?
First site, yep.
Okay, so that's 32 hours in a week? No, 40. I'm confused.
Yep. 40 hours a
So
week.
40
Full
hours.
time.
Okay, so working, but going from each site. So say we have 4 sites, the program director is supposed to be at each site at least 8 hours in a week.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. It really depends. We do expect program directors to visit the sites and to check in and to monitor. In the past, there was like a rule or requirement that you had to visit each site once a week, but we haven't really that's not really in writing in the new RFA, and we haven't really necessarily enforced that. However, you should be visiting the sites frequently, but it may be that, I wouldn't go more than 2 weeks without visiting a site for sure, but it may be like this week I'm gonna if you have 4 sites, this week I'm gonna visit these 2, and next week I'm gonna visit the other 2. That could be the better way to do it. So we haven't really said how often you have to be at each site. But of course, we would love for you to be there as often as you can to support your programs. But a lot of what the program director is responsible for may be something that's not necessarily done on site. It could be that you're collecting data from Power School to give to your external evaluator. It could be that you're meeting with your external evaluator to discuss your program plan and making any updates at the beginning of the year. So there's certain things that you have to do that's not necessarily things that you have to do at a site. So, and it could be that you have a site that's had a 21st century program for a really long time, and they run like a well-oiled, clock or machine. And then you have a newer site who needs their hand to be held a little bit more. And so you might need to spend more time at that site than you do the one that's been doing it for a while. So really, we kind of leave it up to you to do that however you see fit. Now, of course, if we call a site and we're saying, hey, we can't reach your program director, what's going on? And they say something like, well, we haven't seen them in weeks. We don't, we haven't gotten any communication or seen them. Then we might, kind of,
The red flag.
micromanage the situation a little bit more and provide and give you more requirements of how often you have to visit. But to begin with, we don't necessarily force you to spend a certain amount of time at each site.
And then my last question, I was trying to follow in the beginning, but I don't think I followed well. Someone was asking about like paperwork that they weren't able, it wasn't fillable. And so I'm like, I don't know where that is. Where do I find the information there? Just reference.
So there's documents that you have to upload as part of the RFA, and we've gone ahead and put those on the 21st Century website, the state website. Carla or Melissa, if y'all put the link in the chat, that would be great. We have a new website. We've only had it for maybe 6 months now at the most. And so we're still building it, but it has all of the information that we have so far about the RFA. The actual RFA itself hasn't been officially approved and released yet. But we have gone ahead and uploaded those forms because there's really not much difference in those forms than what we've had in previous RFAs. There's slight differences, but not a whole lot. So we just went ahead and uploaded those. What we came to the conclusion, some people were having a hard time getting the fillable forms to work for them. And so Carla mentioned that they are a PDF. And so in order to get the fillable portion to work, you'll have to download it and open it in Adobe Acrobat. And then you should be able to use the fillable portion if you have Adobe. Now, if you don't have Adobe Acrobat, then you may just have to use the old-fashioned version where you just either type it in yourself or write it in. But we just tried, we've tried to provide them in multiple formats to be as helpful as we could. Those are the documents that you could go ahead and start trying to get signatures on, go ahead and start working on those. Go ahead and start collecting your community partners and things like that.
Okay, so in that, okay, I'm on that site. So is that under resources or is it under?
It's under Cohort 27 information.
Okay.
That tab.
Oh, if I just went down a little further, I would have seen it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I do want to let you guys know that we are planning to do, to focus one of these office hour meetings more on joint applications and partnerships and what's expected. Not quite ready to do that yet. I can tell you kind of what I know now, but we're going to try to kind of come up with a list of maybe a workflow list or something like that for you to kind of tell the difference between what should be a joint applicant in your application or just a community partner. We've noticed, you know, you do get priority points for applying for the grant with a partner, with a joint partner, but we have noticed that some of the joint partners that are being uploaded may not really truly be a partner. It really may, those people, it may really be more of a community partner instead of a joint applicant. And so we're going to try to kind of come up with some guidelines to kind of help you determine whether these people, or whether the organization you're wanting to partner with is really truly could be considered a joint applicant, or whether they're really just more of a community partner. What we've come up with so far is just, you know, if they're going to be a joint applicant in your grant, then they should have just as much input and be providing just as much help with writing your RFA, your grant, as you are. They should be a big part of that process. They should be helping you collect data for your needs assessment. They should be involved in every part of you writing your grant. And then they should be part, like weekly part of your program. So it could be that they're providing weekly services to the students for free, or maybe one of their staff members is serving as one of the administrators, or maybe the data collection person or something like that. There should be equal partnership. If you were applying as joint applicants, there really should be more than just that that they're providing, you know, once a month peer, what's a good counseling, not peer counseling, but mentors. They're going to bring in a mentor once a month to work with some students or something like that. That's really more of a community partner than a joint applicant. Also, a joint applicant shouldn't be a vendor that's trying to sell something. That's something that we've recently discovered that we've got to look into from one of the last cohorts. So if it is a vendor, they should be providing the things for free. You know, it shouldn't be like a monetary, it shouldn't be, oh, I'm going to become a joint applicant so that I can make money off this program type of situation. If it's a vendor who has like a philanthropy portion of their company or organization, and and they are going to partner with you, but it's because they're going to provide free services or free materials or things like that for your community learning center, then yes, that would be a true partnership. But if they're just selling you a product, that's not really a partnership. So we're going to work on this, and I'm not sure if it'll be the next office hours, but we'll try to make sure we let everyone know about that. And another thing that we want to make sure we touch on is what's expected of joint applicants. In a lot of cases, especially our joint applications between a CBO and an LEA, we really want to make sure that everyone understands, both the CBO and the LEA, what is expected as you being joint applicants for the 21st Century Grant. Oftentimes we will have a CBO that's almost kind of crippled because they've joined with an LEA that maybe thought it was a great idea and they signed the paperwork, but then when it came down to doing their portion, they weren't willing to do it or not willing to do things in a timely manner, like provide the data that is needed to be collected to be reported to the feds, or maybe their CMP program wasn't super willing to provide afternoon snacks for the program once it came down to actually doing it. So that's another thing that we're going to address in meetings and just kind of talk about things that that you really do need to consider. We also, I just want to point out in the intent to apply, we did notice that it seems like there are a couple of CBOs that have put in an application saying that they're going to serve a school, and the LAA has already put in an application, has also put an application saying they're going to serve that same school. What that indicates to me is that CBO has not actually reached out to the LEA about having a partnership. They want to serve that LEA, but have they actually sat down and talked with them and talked about that partnership? So please make sure you've done that, because I think there's several LEAs that are applying this time that have not had a grant in the past or haven't had one recently. And you want to make sure that you are not trying to serve some kids that the LEA has already decided that they're going to serve. Now, I do want to say one thing. We used to have, I believe in past RFAs, we had a rule that if two applications were submitted to serve the same LEA, they would both be disqualified. We did take that out. And the reason why we took it out is because there may be a situation where an LEA does apply for a grant, but only for certain schools. And then you have a CBO that would like to serve some of the other schools that the LEA is not serving. We didn't want to hinder schools from being able to be served just because their LEA didn't have the capacity to serve all their schools. And so we kind of took that rule out, but we do need to make sure that we don't have two different organizations that are trying to serve the same school. So make sure you're having those conversations with the principals of the school, with the superintendent, so that your application is not disqualified because we've got two different organizations trying to submit a grant for the exact same, to serve the exact same school. But then there's even certain times when even that is okay. So for example, one of our CBOs, Girls Inc., who got the Cohort 26 grant, they are a national program, really great program, but they go and they hire a transportation company that goes to multiple schools, actually from multiple LEAs and that are very close to each other, and bus it and just get certain girls to that meet their qualifications to come in and participate in their program that is an off-site program. Well, they're serving actually multiple LEAs and multiple schools, and so we didn't want to say, okay, but they're serving a very small population at those schools, and so we didn't want to limit those same schools from being able to get a 21st century grant that's going to serve the rest of their kids. So there's always situations where the rules may be bent, not necessarily bent, or it's not necessarily a rule, but there may be situations where things can be justified outside of the norm. So I just want to throw that out there. Hopefully I didn't just confuse everybody even more than I already probably have. All right, I'm gonna shut up and give you a chance to ask questions. Surely somebody has a question. see.
So I do have a question.
Okay, great.
Okay. So I've seen like a few districts have put out like notifications or flyers about their intent to apply. Is
Yes.
there like that's a requirement of
That is a
ours?
requirement. Yes, you were
Okay.
supposed to, that is a requirement of the grant, and it's a federal requirement that you have to put the message out in your community that you intend to apply for the 21st Century Grants. So it doesn't specify how you have to release that information, but it does need to be released to the general public in your community. What I've seen, the ones I've seen that have gone out have been like a memo. Like I think MPS is applying. I saw theirs. It went out, I believe, to all of their parents and schools and I guess their school administrators and things like that. Some of them are in here right now. You might be able to chime in on who all you sent it out to. Or I think they actually put it in the news. Had it released in the local news. But yes, that is one of the things that you were supposed to do, is make sure that you announce that you intend to apply for the program. I think the reasoning behind it is it just gives outside organizations the opportunity to maybe reach out to you about partnerships. It could also let private schools that are in your community know that you're planning on doing this. Because sometimes we don't know, but in Alabama, we don't make private schools register with the state. And so there may be private schools in your area that you don't really know much about or that you don't know exist. And so it gives them a chance to reach out to you about it. But yes, that is something that you do have to do.
Okay. And then I'm gonna say this probably is on the ASAP, but is there like I think I may have asked this before, like a checklist that I can look at? I went online and found some things, and I don't know if it's still up to date or accurate, but just a checklist for myself.
There will be one in the RFA. If you want to go look at the Cohort 26 RFA, I want to say the checklist is very similar. There may be a couple of things on it that are not on the 27 RFA. For example, we used to ask we did eliminate one of the forms, and then we actually took one form and separated it into two. So in Cohort 26, there was one. I'll talk about the first form, and I'm not sure which number it is. Sorry. Let's see if I can figure it out really quick. The principal, the superintendent and principal. Let me find it really fast. Just a second. Okay, so it used to be the superintendent and principal support certification. It was one form that the principal would fill out, and then the principal would sign, and the superintendent and the principals signed one form. We separated that into two separate forms because if you have one superintendent, the rules, the expectations for superintendent and the principals are different, for one thing. And then there was only like a couple of lines for a principal to sign. Well, we may have an LEA that's applying to have 8 different sites or grants. Out of those 8 grants, they may be serving 15 sites that they need a principal to sign off on. So we just decided to separate that into 2 separate documents. And so you'll need to upload one superintendent form if you're just serving one LEA. That's the assumption, is that you're just going to be serving one LEA, but you would upload the superintendent form for that LEA, and then you would upload the principal form for that principals. And then the other form, we have a great comment in the thing I'm going to read in a second, but the other form that changed is we used to ask in the last RFA, we asked for a weekly schedule and like a timeline, but it was kind of redundant for some of the other things that we asked for. So we took the timeline of activities out. It was really, you were repeating yourself more than once, and we just took that out. But other than that, the checklist should be very similar. And you can find the Cohort 26 RFA on the 21st Century website under, I believe it's under the resources. But you're welcome to go look at it. The 27, just make sure that when the new RFA comes out that you put the 26 away to the side and don't continue to refer to it, and you refer to the 27, because there are changes in it. They're not drastic changes, but there are definitely changes. So Annette Scoggin from Montgomery County Schools put in the chat that yes, they did a huge push out on social media and some mailing out with the goal to reach community stakeholders, MPS, parents, and staff. They sent it to their local news, the private schools list, and their city offices. And then she's even put her email address in the chat where she said that she'd be happy to share the press release that she sent out. So that's great. Thank you, Annette, for doing that. That's a great resource that you guys may want to take advantage of. So yeah, that is a requirement.
Thank you.
All right. What other questions might you have? Okay, it says Cohort 27 LEA level is uploaded into eGap. Please expand on how we can use it. Okay, I did not know that. I'm assuming you mean the application. I know that Link is working on building us the Cohort 27 application. And if they put it in eGap, they just haven't made us aware yet. If you're seeing it in eGap, then that's great. They did indicate to us that they thought that they could have it done in time for our February 18th deadline, but I did not realize that there. Do you see it, Carla? Do you see it anywhere? Are you looking? I see you on your computer. You see it? Okay. I can't hear you, but okay. But she's checking on it, I think.
Yes,
I'm
I
looking
see it.
now. Yeah,
Oh,
it
good.
is. Yeah,
It's
it's
here.
there.
Yes.
Awesome. Wow. Y'all, I've been saying this whole time that I would be shocked if they had it done in time, and it's amazing they have. So give us a chance to go through and make sure it's correct before you do anything. We will have, I'm really surprised that they've made it public. Usually what they do is they upload it, have us go in and review it and check for any changes that need to be made. And then once we've said, yes, it's great, then they make it public where you can see it. So I'll have to check on that. I would not advise you to do anything in it yet. Give us a chance to go look at it, make sure that it's right and it's correct before you start filling anything out. And then, you know, it may be, if it's already ready, it may be that we can actually do the training earlier than the 18th. So give us a chance to go look at it. I had no idea it was in there. And then we will let you guys know when you should start actually filling it out. I will, though, however, knowing that that's the case, I do want to point out what you need to do if you don't have access to eGap yet. Okay. I did not go over this in the informational meeting. I planned to do it, you know, when closer to the time when the RFA was actually uploaded into eGap, but now that's been uploaded kind of early, then I can go ahead and mention this. So I'm going to I have the instructions are in the RFA itself, but let me go ahead and share this information with you. Give me just 1 second to find it. Okay. All right. So to get public access and submission requirements, okay? The first thing, especially if you're a CBO, if you're an LEA, your LEA should already have an account in EGAP. You should not be a problem. Now, you may be, whoever's watching this, may be the person who's in charge of the 21st century application, but you may not be the person who has access to EGAP yet. And if that's the case and they expect you to upload the information into EGAP, then you need to reach out to your central office to find out who has the authorization over EGAP for your system. It's probably your federal program director or they'll know who it is. I'm trying to think of the actual title really quick. Hold on. So there'll be an LEA authorized representative. No, that's not the right name. Hold on. Someone in your organization. Okay, here it is. They'll be called the LEA User Access Administrator. So there'll be someone in your LEA who has that title, LEA User Access Administrator, and they have the ability to give others access to EGAP. And so they'll need to give you that access if that's the case. If you're a CBO, my first advice would be to go in to EGAP. Actually, I'm going to share my screen and kind of show you what to do. Give me just a second to pull it up. I know this is kind of an unplanned addition to today's office hours. Give me a second. Let me drag the screen over. Okay. All right. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Hopefully everyone can see this. All right. So this is what EGAP looks like. You can just type in Alabama eGrants Management and it'll come up. And I'm not even going to sign in so that you don't see things from my point of view. I want you to see what you would see from the public point of view. So there is a sign-in box up here, and once you have an account, you'll be able to sign in. But if you're unsure as to whether you have an account or have access, here's what you can do to find out. So you go over here that's on the left to search and go to organizations. I'm trying to think of an organization that is applying. Okay. I'm just going to type in one that I know is going to be in there. So I'm going to type in one of our previous organizations that's worked with us, Better Basics. I'm going to type in Better. You can type in Better Basics, however you want to do it, and hit search. And it'll show that there is an organization already in the system called Better Basics. It's in Jefferson County. It's a community-based organization. And I can even go in and look at their plan, their fiscal, their funding applications, ES2s, things like that. Okay. Now, what was that organization, Carla and Melissa, that we talked about earlier that's applying? Something about Fork or something?
Fork in the road.
Fork in the Road. We saw that there's an organization called Fork in the Road that's applying, or at least they filled out the intent to apply. So I'm going to see if they exist. So I just got that organization out, and I'm going to type in Fork. I'm just going to type in Fork and see what comes up. 0 matching records, 0 results. Okay. So Fork in the Road is probably going to need to request access to EGAP. I do have a form created for that, for you to request access, and I will get that out to you guys. I'll send it out in the listserv as soon as possible, so that if you do need to request access, you can fill it. It's like another Google form. I can't remember if I created it in Google or if I created it in Microsoft, but it's one of those online forms where you can go in and let us know who you need, that we need to create an organization in EGAP for you, and who we need to give access to within that organization. Let's say that you are an organization. Let's say that you're Boys and Girls Club of something. So I'm just going to put in Boys and Girls and hit enter. So these are all the boys and girls clubs that currently have an account right now in EGAP. Now, some of these boys and girls club haven't had a grant in quite some time, right? So I'm going to pick Boys and Girls Club of South Alabama because I don't think they've had a grant. They haven't had a grant in the last couple of years. So I'm going to click on it. And the next thing I'm going to do, and remember, I'm looking at this as a public person, so you can do this exact thing that I'm doing. You can go to, go back over here to, let's see, your address book, the address book. Click on that. May take a minute. Okay, so the last time that Boys and Girls Club of South Alabama had a grant, these are the people that had access to EGAP. It'll show you the contacts that had access to EGAP. And it shows you here, let's see, where are they? Thinking it should show you who your administrator is, but maybe not. Oh yeah, here it is. So it says here, the LAA user access administrator is actually all these people have that form of access. So any one of these 4 people could give access to someone else for the grant. Now, if you get in there and you're a new organization or you're an organization that has your organization is in EGAP, but none of these people work for your organization anymore, and that user access administrator, you don't even know how to contact that person anymore, then you would also need to fill out that form in EGAP to request access, and we can go in and fix that and give the appropriate people access to your account. You will have to give user access to several different people. Now, I say that, but really it could be the same person that serves in all of these different capacities. But you would need an LEA 21st Century Director, the LEA, and it's okay. So it's called LEA whether you're a CBO or not. I know that it's not fair, but they name it this way because most of the people who have access to EGAP are LEAs or local education agencies, and so that's why it doesn't say like LEA/CBO. But just understand that if you're a CBO and you're filling this out, then it means you. It does the LEA 21st Century Director would be the same as the CBO 21st Century Director. So you have to have a 21st Century Director. You have to have an LEA authorized representative, an LEA fiscal representative, which would typically be your CSFO or finance manager, and somebody has to be assigned to those roles. So you've got your user access administrator, you've got your fiscal representative, your authorized representative, and your 21st Century Director. And then when you submit your application, all of those people will have to approve it before it comes to us to be actually scored. So I just want to keep that in mind. We'll send out more detailed information about this sometime very soon. I have an extremely busy week this week, so I'm not sure if it'll be this week, but we will try to get out to you before the next RFA meeting, or definitely have it ready for you during the next office hours meeting. But I'll try to get those links out and exactly how many people you need to have in place to look at this. So we will make sure that we give you access to that and let you know exactly how many people you need to have in that place. But we did have, unfortunately, some LEAs last year who waited until the last day to submit their applications. And because one of those people that they said had to be on that chain of command to approve the application because that person was out of town or their internet was down or whatever reason they could not get into their computer to hit the approve button, they were disqualified from getting the grant because that person did not click that approval button by the deadline in the system. So please don't wait until the last day. Don't even wait till the last week. As soon as you can get it in and get it submitted, the better. because things always happen. Storms come along and knock out the power. Your computer shuts down and you can't get into it. Something happens each time that may delay someone being able to go in and approve it. And we hate to say that because of this, you can't qualify for the grant, especially after you've done all that work. But unfortunately, that's the way that it's set up. We have to put in a deadline, and when it's that deadline and that time, that midnight button hits on that deadline, then no other grants can be submitted after that time. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen, but that's how you go in and look and see who has access. Again, all of this is public domain. I am not even signed in, so you can see this just as easily as I can, okay? All right, let me stop sharing. See what other questions. Okay. Okay, Randy said you can't add a school to it yet. Okay, yeah, please don't. Give it some time to get it done. As soon as this meeting's over, I'm going to reach out and say, hey, can you make that not public? Because I would hate for people to go in and start filling it out, and then we need to change it and their stuff get deleted. So just be patient. Give us a little bit more time to make sure it's correct. And related documents are not in there yet. Okay, yeah. And then Annette, Jennifer Baker asked for you to share your resources with her. So that's great. And then, okay, so it's another question. Our superintendent is retiring March 1st. Can he sign all forms now and then the new superintendent approve? Ooh, that's a tricky one. So yes, yeah, the application is, well, hold on, let me think. If the new superintendent is in place, I would definitely say wait and have the new superintendent upload the forms. The application is not due until March 20th at the earliest. And the reason why I say that is we have had situations in the past. I think it's been more on the principal level than the superintendent level, but we have had situations in the past where an LEA administrator, whether it was the principal or the superintendent, was on board and excited about 21st Century and was all gung-ho about it. And then they left and a new person came in who no longer was excited about it and no longer wanted to have anything to do with it. And then that caused all sorts of problems. And so we would rather the superintendent that's going to be in place when your program starts next year to be the one that signs off on it and says, yes, I'm going to do these things. You know, I approve this application and I'm going to do these things. So that's what we prefer to happen, if possible. If that's not the case, if you have to have someone who's kind of going out, sign it first, then the expectation would be you could have them. That would be okay for you submitting the application, but then as soon as the new person comes in, they would need to fill that document out, sign it. Now, do we check that? No, we don't. We just have too much on our plate we tend to check for us to go and see if you've got a new superintendent. However, we would hope that you would share that document with your superintendent and have them sign it so they know what the expectations are. There's not a huge amount of expectations other than just support from the superintendent, but the principals especially do have more expectations. And so when you do have a principal leave and a new one come in, we would want that document to be signed in the next, like the continuation application. We want that to be updated so they understand, because one of the new things about this RFA is we are asking for principals to participate in a virtual meeting at the beginning of the school year so that we can talk to them about the expectations and what we expect from them, which is, of course, to support your programs as much as possible and make sure that they've got someone who can provide the data that needs to be provided and that sort of thing for your programs. And so we want to make sure that those forms are updated and we have up-to-date contacts for either the superintendent or the principals of the schools you're serving. Okay. Okay, that's good. So then they know who it'll be. So if you could get them to sign, that'd be great. All right. Well, it's past 2:00. I'm not, well, I do have another meeting, but I don't think I have another meeting for a few minutes, for a little bit. So I can stay on a little bit longer if anyone else has any questions, but I don't want to hold people past the time we said. if not necessary. What else do I have? Let's see. Yeah, I'm free for about an hour. So any other questions? All right. Thank you. Yeah, this meeting started off really slow, but it ended up being pretty informative. Thank you for Randy for letting us know that the EGAP application's in there. That would have been nice to know. Can you contact us by chance? Yes, Annette, we I think someone has, so we're gonna reach out to you about that. Melissa, can you reach out to Annette about the CBO? Was it a CBO or was it, I think there may be a CBO that said they're going to submit for Montgomery for an MPS school, and then maybe even like an MPS school that was submitting for an MPS school. So we knew we were going to need to reach out to you guys. We just went over this. We just went through the intent to apply about an hour ago. So we just haven't had a chance to reach out to the systems of the ones that we saw that were just kind of iffy or there may be an issue. So Melissa will reach out to you about that, Annette. All right. Thank you, guys. All right, our next meeting is next week on February the 10th, and it will be a later in the afternoon meeting from 4:30 to 5:30. It's really late because I thought I may have to be at a conference, and so we scheduled it really late. So it'll probably just be me in the next meeting, but hopefully we'll have some great information for you guys there. And it's the same link. And as always, if you have any questions that come up, you're welcome to email me or email the 21st Century email address, or any of our specialists, and we will try to help you out as best as we can. And then we're trying to be sure to make sure we include any questions we get outside of these office hours in our Q&A documents so that everybody has access to the answers. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.